She's my everything. I need her back.
Her name is Diana Duve.
This is a photo of 26-year-old Diana Duve of Vero Beach.
I don't know where she is.
Police describe her as 5'3", 120 pounds, brown hair.
And I'm looking for her, but I don't know.
She sent one last text message before midnight. 3 words: I love you. By sunrise, Diana Duve's body was found wrapped in a sleeping bag, dumped like trash on the side of a road. The man who killed her? He was smiling in a selfie just hours after her death. This is the story of a beautiful life destroyed by a monster hiding in plain sight. In the summer of 2014, Vero Beach, Florida, was the kind of place where people moved to escape the chaos of the world. White sand beaches, warm ocean breezes, a community so tight-knit that everyone knew their neighbors by name. It was paradise. But on the morning of July 3rd, 2014, that paradise was shattered forever. A jogger running along the shoulder of 66th Avenue stumbled upon something that didn't belong. A sleeping bag, partially unzipped, revealing the pale, lifeless face of a young woman. Her name was Diana Duve. She was only 20 years old, and the man responsible for her death had spent the night after killing her partying, taking photos, and acting like nothing had happened. This isn't just a story about murder. It's a story about how evil can wear a charming smile, how a single night can destroy multiple families, and how a community came together to demand justice for a girl whose life was stolen far too soon. Diana Duve wasn't just another name in a case file. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend. Born and raised in Vero Beach, Diana had the kind of presence that lit up every room she walked into. Her friends described her as bubbly, kind-hearted, and full of life. She had just graduated from cosmetology school and was beginning to build a career doing what she loved. She posted photos on social media of her work, her family, her dreams. She was living the life of a young woman on the edge of adulthood, full of hope and possibility. But beneath the surface, Diana was navigating something dangerous. She had recently ended a tumultuous relationship with a man named Michael David Jones. Friends later said the relationship had been rocky, filled with jealousy, arguments, and red flags that Diana had tried to ignore. By early July, she had decided to move on. She wanted peace. She wanted freedom. She wanted a future that didn't include him. Michael David Jones had other plans. July 2nd, 2014, started like any other summer day in Vero Beach. Diana spent time with friends, laughed, made plans for the 4th of July weekend. But as the evening approached, something changed. Michael David Jones had been texting her. He wanted to see her. He wanted to talk. Friends later said Diana hesitated. She knew it wasn't a good idea, but Brewer was persistent. And Diana, always compassionate, always wanting to believe the best in people, agreed to meet him. That decision would cost her everything. Sometime around midnight, Diana sent her last text message to a friend. 3 simple words: I love you. It was a message that would haunt everyone who knew her. Because after that text, Diana Duve went silent. Her phone stopped pinging. Her social media went dark. And in the early hours of July 3rd, Michael David Jones was seen driving Diana's car, a silver Nissan Sentra, through the streets of Vero Beach. Witnesses later reported seeing him acting strangely, appearing agitated, and behaving erratically. What they didn't know was that Diana was already dead. When the jogger found Diana's body that morning, the scene was horrific. She had been wrapped in a sleeping bag and left on the side of the road like discarded garbage. Her body showed signs of blunt force trauma. She had been beaten. Investigators later determined that Diana had suffered multiple injuries to her head and face, inflicted with such force that it was clear this wasn't an accident or a moment of passion. This was rage. This was murder. The Indian River County Sheriff's Office immediately launched an investigation. They processed the scene, collected evidence, and began piecing together Diana's final hours. It didn't take long for a suspect to emerge. Diana's friends told detectives about Michael David Jones. They described the volatile relationship, the breakup, the recent texts, and when investigators ran Brewer's name, they discovered something chilling. He had a criminal history. He had been in trouble before, and now he was missing. So was Diana's car. For the next 24 hours, a massive manhunt unfolded across Florida. The Indian River County Sheriff's Office issued a be on the lookout alert for Michael David Jones and Diana's silver Nissan Sentra.
Last month of killing his on-again, off-again girlfriend, Diana Duve, in Vero Beach. WPTV News Channel 5's John Shainman takes you inside the courtroom.
His photo was broadcast on local news stations. His face appeared on social media. The community was terrified. A killer was on the loose. But Brewer wasn't running scared. In fact, he was doing the opposite. Investigators later uncovered surveillance footage and social media activity showing that Brewer had spent the hours after Diana's murder partying. He was seen at a convenience store buying beer. He was photographed at a friend's house, smiling, laughing, acting as if he didn't have a care in the world. He even took a selfie. That photo, later released to the public, became one of the most chilling pieces of evidence in the case. Michael David Jones was grinning at the camera, his eyes cold and empty. He looks like any other young man enjoying a summer night. But just hours earlier, he had beaten Diana Duve to death and dumped her body on the side of the road. The image sent shockwaves through the community. How could someone who had just committed such a brutal act appear so calm, so normal? On July 4, 2014, David Jones' luck ran out. A sharp-eyed sheriff's deputy spotted Diana's silver Nissan Sentra parked outside a motel in nearby Sebastian, Florida. Officers surrounded the vehicle and found David inside. He was taken into custody without incident. During questioning, David initially denied any involvement in Diana's death. He claimed he didn't know what happened to her. He said he had borrowed her car. He made excuses, told lies, tried to talk his way out of the nightmare he had created. But the evidence didn't lie. Forensic teams found blood in Diana's car. Diana's blood. They found David's fingerprints at the scene where her body was dumped. They found text messages, witness statements, and surveillance footage that painted a damning picture. Michael David Jones had murdered Diana Duve. There was no doubt. And when confronted with the evidence, David's story began to crumble. The prosecution's case against David Jones was built on a mountain of evidence, each piece more damning than the last. Let's break it down. First, there was the forensic evidence. Blood found in Diana's car was a direct DNA match to her. The sleeping bag her body was wrapped in was traced back to David's residence. Investigators found additional evidence linking David to the crime scene, including fibers and trace materials that placed him at the location where Diana's body was discovered. Second, there was the digital trail. Text messages between Diana and David Jones painted a picture of a man who couldn't accept that the relationship was over. In the days leading up to her murder, David Jones had sent Diana dozens of messages, some pleading, some angry, some threatening. Friends later testified that Diana had expressed fear about David's behavior. She had told people she was worried about what he might do. Third, there was the timeline. Surveillance footage and witness statements placed David with Diana on the night of July 2nd. His movements after her death were tracked through store cameras, ATM footage, and cell phone records. Every step he took after killing Diana was documented. And finally, there was David's own behavior. The selfie, the partying, the complete lack of remorse. It was as if he believed he could get away with it, as if Diana's life meant nothing. David Jones was charged with first-degree murder. The trial began in early 2015, and from the first day, the courtroom was packed. Diana's family sat in the front row, holding hands, wiping away tears, desperate for justice. The prosecution presented their case methodically, walking the jury through every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every moment of that horrific night. They showed photos of Diana's body. They played recordings of David's interviews with detectives. They brought in forensic experts who testified about the violence Diana had endured in her final moments. The defense tried to argue that the killing wasn't premeditated, that it was a crime of passion, that David had acted in the heat of the moment. But the evidence told a different story. The brutality of the attack, the disposal of Diana's body, the cold, calculated behavior afterward. This wasn't a moment of passion. This was murder. Diana's mother took the stand and delivered a victim impact statement that left everyone in the courtroom in tears. She spoke about her daughter's kindness, her dreams, her future that would never be. She looked directly at David and said, "You took my baby from me. And for what? because you couldn't let her go? The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous: guilty of first-degree murder. In Florida, a first-degree murder conviction carries only one possible sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. On the day of sentencing, the courtroom was silent as the judge addressed David Jones. He spoke about the senselessness of the crime, the devastation it had caused, and the fact that Diana's family would never get to see her smile again, never get to watch her build a life, never get to hold her children. The judge sentenced David to life without parole. He would die in prison. As David was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, he showed no emotion, no apology, no remorse. Diana's family, however, collapsed into each other's arms, sobbing. It wasn't relief they felt, it was grief, because no verdict, no sentence could ever bring Diana back.
She was never anybody to shy away from the things that we wanted to do over there, and she was just a gamer and an awesome person all around.
Johnson says Duve's decision to go into nursing, specifically oncology, showed her giving nature.
You get to know who people are, and she's one of those people that you won't find anybody that has anything bad to say about her.
In the years since Diana's murder, her family has worked tirelessly to keep her memory alive. They established a scholarship in her name for aspiring cosmetologists, ensuring that other young women could pursue the dreams Diana never got to fulfill. They speak at community events about the warning signs of domestic violence and the importance of listening when someone says they're afraid. Because Diana had been afraid, she had seen the red flags, she had tried to leave, and it still wasn't enough. The case also sparked conversations in Vero Beach and beyond about how society responds to domestic violence, how we protect victims, and how we hold abusers accountable before it's too late. Diana's story became a rallying cry for change, a reminder that behind every statistic is a real person with a real life, real dreams, and real people who love them. But for Diana's family, the pain never fades. Birthdays, holidays, the 4th of July, all of them are now marked by the absence of the girl they love so much. Her mother has said in interviews that she still expects Diana to walk through the door, that she still hears her laugh in quiet moments, that she still reaches for her phone to text her before remembering that she's gone. Diana Duve's story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. It reminds us that domestic violence isn't always visible. It doesn't always announce itself with bruises and broken bones. Sometimes it hides behind text messages, jealous outbursts, and the slow erosion of a person's sense of safety. It reminds us that leaving an abusive relationship is one of the most dangerous times for a victim. Studies show that the risk of homicide increases dramatically when a victim tries to leave. Diana knew Brewer was volatile. She had tried to protect herself, but in the end, it wasn't enough. And it reminds us that justice, while necessary, doesn't undo the harm. Michael David Jones, rest of his life in prison, but Diana's family will spend the rest of their lives without her. There is no fair trade. There is no balance. There is only grief and the slow, painful process of learning to live with a loss that should never have happened. On a warm summer morning in 2014, a jogger in Vero Beach, Florida, made a discovery that changed a community forever. Diana Duve's life was stolen by a man who couldn't accept that she had the right to walk away. Her body was discarded like trash. Her future was erased. But her memory, her legacy, and the lessons from her story continue to ripple outward. Diana's family still fights for her. They still speak her name. They still demand that the world remember that she was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a young woman with dreams and a smile that could light up a room. And while Michael David Jones is in a prison cell, Diana's spirit lives on in every young woman who finds the courage to leave a dangerous relationship, in every family who speaks up about the warning signs, and in every community that refuses to let another Diana be forgotten. If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, please reach out. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24 hours a day. You are not alone, and your life is worth protecting. Diana Duve's story is a tragedy, but it's also a call to action, a reminder that we all have a role to play in protecting the vulnerable, in listening when someone says they're afraid, and in never forgetting the names and faces of those we've lost. Rest in peace, Diana. Your light still shines. If this story moved you, please like, share, and and subscribe. And remember, domestic violence thrives in silence. Let's break that silence together.